The fluorescent lights in the banquet hall are the kind that hum. Not loudly, just enough that you notice when the room goes quiet. It is 7:43 p.m. on a Saturday in March. There is the smell of gardenias and cheap chafing dish fuel, and the sound of 100 conversations happening at once. My father's 60th birthday party. I am standing near the entrance in a navy dress I bought for $94 in November and never once wore, because I was saving it. He sees me from across the room. He doesn't smile. He crosses the floor in 11 steps. And what he says next, 4 words spoken low and rehearsed, the way he has rehearsed things my entire life, should have ended the evening. Except for one detail he could not have anticipated. A woman he has not seen in 31 years is standing 6 feet to my left. And she is holding a leather binder. What happened in the next 60 seconds destroyed everything they thought they could still take from me. Welcome back to Family Revenge Stories New, where we tell quiet, true-to-life stories about the invisible children. The ones called only when needed, discarded when inconvenient, and underestimated right up until the moment it costs everything. I'm glad you're here. If you have ever been the child who did everything right and was still never quite enough, if you have ever been handed a version of yourself that wasn't true and were told to wear it like a name tag, this one is for you. Pull up a chair. I will not rush this. Before we go further, drop the word silent in the comments below. Just that one word. You'll know why by the end. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. There are more of us than you think, and every story we tell here is proof that silence has a shelf life. Let me start this back at the beginning of that night because the order matters. Timestamp: 5:17 p.m. I had been at the venue since 5:17. Not because I was eager, because I needed to know the layout. I had driven 40 minutes in light rain, parked in the far corner of the lot, and sat in my car for 9 minutes eating a granola bar and reading a text message from my attorney Margaret Osei, age 54, 22 years in family and estate law, who had texted me exactly 4 words. I'm already inside. Ready. She had a leather binder with her. Black full grain, the clasp slightly worn from years of use. I had seen that binder in her office once before, in January, when she first laid eyes on a document that had been sitting in a trust account in Raleigh, North Carolina, since 1993. She'd set it on her desk, looked at me and said, "Elena, they made a significant error." Then she said nothing else for a long moment. I will tell you what that document was. But not yet. My father's girlfriend, Donna, was visible through the glass doors when I approached. A tall woman in a red wrap dress, pearl earrings she has worn every important occasion for 20 years, earrings my mother once told me she'd always admired. My mother was not at this party. My mother has not been at any party of my father's since 2009. That detail matters too. I want to pause here for just a moment. If this story is landing somewhere familiar for you, subscribe now. We tell these stories every week. You deserve to hear them. My name is Elena. I was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina on April 3, 1991, the second child and only daughter of Raymond Graves and Carol Graves, née Whitfield. My brother Dale is 3 years older. I will not spend much time on Dale. He is not the villain of this story. He is more like a piece of furniture in a room where something terrible happened. Present, silent, unable to intervene. The first time my father made clear what I was worth, I was 9 years old. He had been promoted at the engineering firm where he worked, a raise of roughly $18,000 annually. I know the number because I found the letter in his desk once, filing away some papers he'd handed me as a task. The family celebrated with a dinner out. Steak restaurant, the kind with cloth napkins. Dale ordered whatever he wanted. I was told to look at the right side of the menu. That is not a crime. That is barely even a memory. But it is where the accounting begins. At 12, I was pulled out of the summer academic enrichment program I had tested into, one of 40 students selected from the county, because my father said we couldn't afford it. The program cost $340. That same summer, he bought Dale a used dirt bike for $1,200. I remember the smell of the garage that afternoon, motor oil and cut grass. I did not cry. I went inside and started a list in a notebook. I labeled it Things I Will Do Myself. I still have that notebook. At 15, I won a regional essay competition through the school district. First place. A $500 savings bond in my name. My father had me sign it over to him within a week. For the household, he said. There was no financial crisis that month. The mortgage was current. I know because I had started watching the statements when they arrived, studying the numbers the way some kids study baseball cards. I signed the bond. I filed the memory. I did not highlight my name in the program where it was printed. There was no point. The financial exploitation became cleaner as I got older, the way a habit becomes efficient. At 17, I was working 18 hours a week at a pharmacy and depositing every paycheck into an account my father had opened in both our names when I was 16. For your future, he told me. By the time I turned 18, there was $4,100 in that account. I withdrew it 2 weeks before my birthday and moved it to an account at a different bank, one he did not know about. I told no one. I had read enough to understand that I had one window, and it was closing. The ejection came on a Tuesday evening in October 2009. I was 18 years old and 2 months into community college. I had made the mistake, if you can call it that, of telling my father that I had applied for a FAFSA in my own name, and had not listed him as a contributor, on advice from the Financial Aid Office, who had reviewed his tax returns and determined I qualified for independent status. He did not raise his voice. My father does not raise his voice. He speaks the way people speak when they have thought about what they're going to say for a very long time. He told me, standing in the kitchen doorway while my mother folded laundry at the table behind him. Folding, just folding, not looking up, that I had made my choices and he was making his. The door, he said, was right there. I heard it close behind me. I stood on the concrete porch for 4 minutes before I started walking. The street was very still. Somewhere down the block, someone was watching television and the sound of it, a laugh track bright and hollow, was the last thing I heard from that neighborhood. I had $4,100 in a bank account, a backpack, and 2 changes of clothes. I slept for 3 weeks in the back room of a woman named Patricia, who was the mother of a girl I knew from work, who asked nothing of me but $20 a week for groceries. It was unglamorous and it was enough. I am grateful for Patricia in a way I do not have language for. She is the kind of person who does not know they save someone's life, and I have never been able to fully explain it to her. I finished community college in 2 years. Transferred to UNC Wilmington on a merit scholarship. Graduated May 2014 with a degree in accounting and a minor in legal studies. I passed the CPA exam on the first attempt in March 2015. I bought a used 2011 Honda Civic in August of that year, $7,800, financed through my credit union, and I signed for it alone in a plastic chair in a car dealership that smelled like carpet cleaner, and I sat in the parking lot for a few minutes afterward with both hands on the steering wheel. I did not cry then either. I simply sat with the fact of it. Sometimes that is enough. For 12 years my father and I did not speak. The first contact came on September 14, 2023 by text message, from a number I had blocked and then unblocked some years earlier out of a kind of practical preparedness. No greeting. No punctuation at the beginning. The message read, "Elena, we need to talk about the estate situation with your grandfather. Call me." That was all. No acknowledgement of 12 years. No inquiry about my life. No apology, not even a perfunctory one. Just a transaction dressed up as a conversation. I did not call. I took a screenshot, saved it to a folder on my desktop I had already labeled evidence, and I forwarded it to Margaret's email at 9:42 a.m. She replied within the hour. "This is what we've been waiting for. Don't respond. Come in Thursday." My grandfather, my father's father, Raymond Graves Sr., who died in February 2023, had, as it turned out, done something my father either did not know about or had spent decades hoping would never surface. In 1993, 2 years after I was born, my grandfather had established a trust. The trust was funded with proceeds from the sale of a property in Moore County, North Carolina, 4.2 acres that had been in the Graves family since 1951. The trust was established with $214,000. The named beneficiary was his granddaughter. Me. Not Dale. Not my father. Me. My grandfather had never told me. He had also apparently never told my father in a way that made clear it was irrevocable. The trust had been quietly compounding for 30 years. By the time Margaret pulled the documentation in January 2023, the current value was $341,000. My father, it emerged, had known about the trust's existence since 2021, when my grandfather first became ill. He had spent 2 years attempting to contest it, attempting to locate paperwork, attempting to establish that I was somehow unreachable or unfit. He had failed on every front. What he did not know, what no one had told him, was that Margaret had been my attorney since 2017, that I had found her through a legal aid referral after a landlord dispute, and that she had spent the last 2 years preparing for exactly this moment. She had a 60-page file. She had correspondence. She had the original 1993 trust document, a notarized copy, and a letter from my grandfather written in his own handwriting in December 2022, 2 months before he died, addressed to me, never mailed, found by his housekeeper and forwarded by certified mail to Margaret's office. In the letter he wrote 9 sentences. I will not read them here. I will only say that in one of them he used the word sorry, and that it was the first time anyone in that family had. Margaret handed me the letter on a Tuesday in January 2023. She said, "He knew. He always knew." Then she closed the binder, and neither of us said anything for a while. They knew none of that when they planned that birthday party. They had invited me. A surprise, a text from Donna, brisk and transactional, because they needed me present for a conversation about the estate they believed was still contested. They thought I was still the girl on the porch. They were about to learn what the rest of their lives looked like. He crosses the floor in 11 steps. He is wearing a gray suit, and he looks older in the way people do when they have spent decades being right about everything. He stops 2 feet from me. He says, low and without inflection, "You need to leave before you embarrass yourself." For words. The room does not notice yet. The room is still noise and gardenias and clinking glasses. But the woman to my left has turned. Margaret O'Say is not a tall woman. She is composed in the specific way of someone who has been in rooms like this before, and has never needed volume to be heard. She is wearing a dark blazer and carrying the leather binder. She looks at my father. She does not look at me. And the first word she says is not my name. It is his. His full name. Raymond. Flat. Precise. A door shutting. His face moves through 3 stages in the space of 4 seconds. The first is confusion. Who is this woman? The second is anger at the confusion. How dare she interrupt? The third is the one I have been waiting for my whole life. The involuntary glance to his left toward Donna, the instinctive search for backup, and the recognition that she does not know what is happening either. He is alone in a way he hasn't been in 30 years, and his face knows it before he does. Margaret sets the binder on the nearest table. She opens it. She begins placing documents face up, one at a time without explanation. The trust establishment form dated August 14, 1993. The current account statement from the trust, showing $341,000. The letter from Raymond Sr. in his own handwriting. A wire transfer record from 2021 showing my father had attempted to move $40,000 from a joint account connected to the trust, an account he was not authorized to access. A letter from his attorney, also from 2021, advising him to cease. A response from Margaret's office, also from 2021, documenting the attempt and placing it on record. My father attempts to re-establish control twice. The first time he reaches for the wire transfer document and says, "That is not what that is." Margaret places her hand on the binder without raising her voice. "Raymond, you are not going to want to do that here." The second time he looks at me directly. The first time in 12 years he has looked at me at all, and he says, "You have no idea what you're doing." That is when I speak. Not before. I have been waiting for that sentence specifically, because it is the one he has said in one form or another my entire life, and I wanted it on the table between us, documented and visible, before I answered it. I look at him. My heart rate is, I would estimate, 62 beats per minute. I say, "I know exactly what I'm doing. I've known since I was 12. That is all. I do not explain. I do not expand. I sit down. Timestamp. 8:14 p.m. The documents are signed at 8:14. Margaret had brought 2 copies of everything already tabbed. My father's hand is steady when he signs, and I note this because it surprises even me, that old reflex of competence, that muscle memory of control. He signs Raymond J. Graves in full, in a firm cursive that has never changed since I was a child and was made to address envelopes for his Christmas cards. Donna's signature is different. The pen slows at the start of her last name. She writes it in pieces as if remembering how. She does not look up when she finishes. They leave at 8:31. I watch from a chair near the window. There are still 100 people in this room who have no idea what just happened at the table by the east wall. The gardenias still smell the same. The lights still hum. I lock the door of my car myself when I get to the parking lot. I sit for a moment. Then I go back inside and find Margaret, and we drink water and eat the dinner rolls that were included in the party package, which I find genuinely funny, and she does too. The binder is back under her arm. She will carry it to her office and file it on Monday. She does not need it anymore. Neither do I. The civil case was filed in March 2024. The trust transfer was completed in full by July. The wire transfer attempt had constituted a fraudulent financial act under North Carolina statute. His attorney negotiated a settlement to avoid prosecution. My father moved to a smaller house in Garner in September. I did not attend his move. I sent no flowers. I have not sent flowers anywhere they were involved since October 2009. There is a photograph on my desk now, printed on regular paper, nothing special. It is me at the closing of my house, a 1,940 square foot Craftsman in Wilmington, purchased in November 2023, the first house I have ever owned, signed for a loan in a beige conference room at a title company off Market Street. In the photograph I am sitting at the table, pen in hand, and I am not smiling exactly. I am just there, present in a room where my name is on every page. Margaret gave me a small cactus the day the trust transferred. She said, "These survive everything." It is on my kitchen windowsill. I water it on Sundays. If you have spent your life being told that you are the difficult one, the embarrassing one, the one who was never quite worth the full seat at the table, please understand this. They were not describing you. They were describing what they needed you to believe in order to keep taking. There is a version of you that they manufactured, and it was never true. The truth is in the accounting, the years of work, the money saved in impractical places, the credentials earned in rooms where no one clapped when you walked in. You have been building something. You may not have had a word for it yet. Some people receive justice in courtrooms. Some receive it in quiet moments in parking lots, or in the hum of a room where someone finally says a name out loud in the right tone of voice. Sometimes justice looks like a signed document, and sometimes it looks like a small cactus on a Sunday morning. The door he pointed me toward in October 2009 was not the end. It was just the first door I ever opened.